So last time we learned about categories, how they consist of objects and morphisms, and talked about the name collision between category theory's idea of an object and object-oriented programming idea of an object. They are related, but in a subtle way that we'll get to later. In the particular category we're looking at, the objects are what we call contracts. Contracts take in a value. If they are tested to see if they match some expectation. If they don't, throw a type error. If they do, then we return them. Now, contracts won't always return something that's identical to the input, but it should be equivalent in a strong way that we'll see later. The morphisms of our category are guarded functions. That is, they expect some input to pass a contract, and then the output should also pass a contract. Now here it's implicit that the result is a string, but this could be a map from string to any. Happens to be to always return strings, but any, of course, never throws an exception, so it accepts any value. We saw how to build all of the primitive types as contracts. We get in the type name that's produced from the type of operator, check that that name is a string, and then return this particular function that is a contract. It expects a value, checks that it matches the given type. If not, it throws an exception, otherwise it returns the value. So here we have the 4 other primitive types. In the increment function, it's a guarded function from num to num. Now, in JavaScript, there are the 5 primitive types, but if it returns object for type of, there are lots of different kinds of object it might be, lots of different built-in constructors that might have been used. So this time we're going to write a contract for arrays, that is, things that inherit from the array constructor. Now, usually the way we test inheritance in JavaScript is to use a pattern like x instance of, and then the constructor. This usually works, but if you're on the web, you may sometimes receive objects from a different frame. And each frame has its own array constructor. And so if I tried this on a foreign array, an array from a different frame, it would fail. However, JavaScript objects also have a string called the internal class property, which is the name of the constructor that was the built-in constructor that was used to create it. And the way to get it is to apply the toString method that is on Object.prototype to the object you want to find out what the class method is. So the way this works is var arr is function of something that's ostensibly an array. We say if object literal dot toString dot call a is not equal to quote object array, and we throw our type error. Else return So here is a contract for arrays. It's taking an object literal and getting its toString method. Now, this object literal inherited the toString method from Object.prototype. Then it's invoking the call property of the method. This is defined on function.prototype, so it exists on every function, every method. And then uses the value a as the this binding. That is, when toString internally uses the keyword this, it will refer to a. Now what it gets is this pattern, bracket, object, space, class name, close bracket. We can do this same pattern for dates, for regexps, for any of the built-in constructors.